Hello and welcome to another episode of Training for Triathlon. I won't lie, today's video might not be the most visually entertaining, but I'm hoping it will give you an insight into the logistical side of training, psychological stressors, and ultimately what my training looks like just 6 weeks out from my first ever triathlon, which is a 70.3 distance. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous about it. I am currently managing a knee injury and haven't ran for 8 weeks as I'm still waiting for the results of my MRI scan. Despite this, I feel like I've been progressing in the pool, feeling much smoother and efficient in my swims, and I'm starting to feel stronger in them as well and not feel like I'm holding on as much and wishing them to end. And I actually feel like I'm ending my sessions with a strong finish. My knee has been manageable on the bike, and so I have been replacing all my runs with bikes, which has enabled me to hit around 300k a week in the past 3 weeks of training. Psychologically, these extra hours on the bike have been tough. Although I know swimming and biking are my weaknesses, as I do come from a running background, I have questioned why I'm doing this in many of the workouts if I'm unable to make it to the start line just because I can't run. However, it's not just about crossing the finish line in a certain time. The true journey lies in the consistent work being put in over days, weeks, and months. It's about showing up when life gets difficult. Fatigue, both physical and mental, settles in, and the last thing that you want to do is get that workout done. But when you keep pushing through, the achievement that lies on the other side is just so rewarding. A quote that's kind of stuck with me that I kind of came up with myself is that you never regret a workout. And I do have to keep reminding myself when I wake up and I feel groggy, I feel tired, and I don't really feel like pushing myself and hitting that workout, hitting them paces, hitting them powers, etc. That's what I remind myself, is that never once have I been like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I just lied in bed. Now, every time you feel just that sense of achievement when you tick that workout off, knowing that you've laid another brick and you are one step closer to that end goal. But it doesn't mean that that end goal should be your focus. Here's another quote for you. The man who loves the journey will go further than he who loves the destination. And this just emphasizes how you should focus on the process, the enjoyment of it, of improving, of showing up, of refining your skills and getting better each day, each week, each month. Being able to continually develop and improve is ultimately how you achieve your full potential, rather than just fixating on a set pace and time. Because when you achieve that, then where do you go? And people can fall out of love with that. And especially it can be demoralizing if you're not hitting them paces, or you see other times that people are doing, and when you've been putting in work and you're just not as good as them. Whereas if you focus on your own journey, your own process, your own training, I think that's where the real joy lies, in actually focusing on yourself and the work that you are putting in and being proud of the work that you're putting in. Because I won't lie, triathlon training is hard, it's tiring, but it's been so rewarding with the amount of work that I've put in and what I've gained back from it, and seeing the improvements that I have just from being consistent week in, week out. So with that being said, I am currently 6 weeks out from my 70.3 distance triathlon, and I want to give you a little insight into what things are looking like. People online love to document their biggest training weeks, and I think a lot of the times it can be unrealistic, and they don't really show the logistical side of it and psychologically the toll it can take when you're trying to organize sessions throughout the week. So I want to give you a bit more of a holistic and realistic insight into this. I have just finished my second year of university and finished my weekend job, so I'm pretty much stress-free. I've also moved back home to live with my parents before I start my placement year in 6 weeks' time. And so this kind of means I can pretty much dial in my training, and that can be my main focus, which a lot of the time I'm balancing uni life and work life, and it is a lot. And so these 6 weeks hopefully are going to boost my recovery and allow me to get the best out of my training. With that being said, it has caused me to adjust my routine, and it has been difficult to adapt, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Finding a new place to swim and creating my new pain cave have been challenging but an enjoyable experience that I think we've now all got sorted, so I can crack on with my training without worrying where I'm actually going to do it. So let's get into what a week looks like. So just to give you a heads up, this week is a lower volume week. I'd say it's a bit more of a down week from my endurance training, and then in the gym as well, that is going to be more of a deload session just to allow me to recover a little bit and just set me up for these next final 5 weeks after I finish this down week of training. So with that being said, things are a little lower in volume and intensity, but starting off, Monday is a complete rest day, which I won't lie is the first complete recovery day I've had in 3 weeks. I've been building, putting in work, and like I say, balancing student and work life sometimes means I have to mix and match sessions. I won't always be able to get to the pool or the gym, etc. And so typically I do just neglect a rest day because I'm like, I need to get my workout in. So having one complete rest day, I think, is going to be really beneficial for me and allow me to properly recover and adapt to the training and the work that I'm putting in. I think in the past I have easily got lost in the monotonous cycle of waking up, training, and just repeating, and sometimes you kind of lose sight of the whole purpose and your whole drive for training and improving. So having this rest day will allow a little reset and then allow me to hopefully to push harder in the workouts that matter and get more out of my training, like I say. So the actual week of training starts out on Tuesday with a long, steady aerobic 3K swim, focusing more on just feeling fluid, efficient and relaxed, and not necessarily worrying about the paces. Although I do obviously want to be quicker, I think sometimes when I put emphasis on the pace, that can cause me to tense up and fight with the water a little bit more. So here, I don't really worry about the time. I just focus on my stroke, feeling efficient, feeling smooth, and as a byproduct of that, my pace is usually quicker as well. So that's what Tuesday's session looks like. Wednesday, we have our main lactate threshold maintenance session of the week on the bike, working in zone 3, 4 and the lower level of zone 5. This session will last about an hour. I would also have a brick run off this, but like I say, I'm replacing all my runs with bikes at the minute, so it will just mean a bit of a longer cool down for me. Wednesday is also when I'll do my lower body strength session, but like I say, this is going to be deload focused, so probably 3 sets of 10 reps of squats and maybe the same for lunges and the same for some Romanian deadlifts. Nowhere near failure, just going through the movements, practicing them, feeling the certain muscle groups that I'm supposed to be feeling. I don't really want to cause any soreness, but I also do want to get a bit of stimulus there, but nothing over the top that's going to cause me really fatigued. So just a maintenance session there. Thursday, we are back in the pool for a CSS +2 swim. CSS meaning critical swim speed, which for me is about 144 per 100 meters. This again is going to be about 3 kilometers worth. And then also in the afternoon is when we are going to complete our upper body deload session in the gym. Again, not taking anything close to failure, keeping it relatively moderate and light. 10 reps, 3 sets for most compound exercises, and that is us done. Friday in a typical week is usually some form of running intervals. However, because like I say, it's a lower volume, lower intensity week, and obviously I'm not running at the minute, it is just being replaced by an easy zone 2 bike. Probably do this on the trainer just to be time efficient and make sure that I'm actually sticking to zone 2. The weekend is where the volume ramps up a little bit, starting Saturday morning with a CSS swim. So these are all going to be at around a 144 per 100 meter pace. And what we have scheduled is 8 lots of 200 meters with 25 seconds rest as the main set for the session. Then in the afternoon, I will complete an outdoor road ride on my TT bike as well. Looking to go for about 40 minutes out and keeping that within zone 2, and then turning for home and all the way holding back about a zone 4 effort. So heart rate maybe about 155 to 170, but trying to hold a consistent effort and actually getting used to pushing a bit of power on the roads, because typically I do most of my hard sessions on the turbo where you're not having to think about traffic, you're obviously not having to steer as much, so just kind of focusing on some bike handling skills and actually getting outdoors for a change, which is always nice provided that the weather is good. Then to finish the week on Sunday, we have another makeshift session, as obviously not running. Usually it'd be a brick session, but instead we are keeping the 80 minutes of zone 2 on the bike, and instead of 10 rounds of 400 meter repeats, it's going to be 80 seconds on, 80 seconds off on the turbo trainer, and then a little cool down after that. So we're looking at about maybe just under 2 hours of work there, and that is the week done. The main focus of that week of training is just to maintain what we've built in the past 3 weeks. Like I say, I have been building and have been neglecting a rest day, so bit of more of a recovery focused week, which I think is going to benefit me for these next 5 weeks of training to push on to race day. Final takeaway that I want to leave you guys with, and probably some advice for myself, is just stressing the importance of adaptation. Now, this is defined as the process of change by which an organism becomes better suited to its environment. You can interpret this many ways, but basically being adaptable allows you to thrive amongst difficult and challenging situations, whether that's through your training by improving your pain tolerance on the bike or becoming more efficient in your swim. But it can also be looked holistically in your personal and professional life. For example, after spending 2 years at uni and living by myself, not having to worry about anyone, coming back home and living in a house full of 5 means I have a lot more people to consider, and I equally need to work around them better. So that means probably not having a shower as early as I do to avoid waking up my little sister, and also finding a way to still work deeply and get the work that I want to do done despite there being more distractions and more noise. Being able to continue to put in your best work and thrive towards your goals under challenging conditions is what adaptation is all about. With that being said, the weekly plan that I've just outlined to you could change, as I am still struggling to find a place to swim on a Saturday. And so if this is the case, then the plan will shift completely one day to the left. So my designated rest day will now be a Sunday, and then the long aerobic swim will start on the Monday instead of the Tuesday. Coming from a running background, triathlon training is by far the most physically and mentally draining sport that I have ever participated in. With the logistics from finding swimming memberships to setting up bikes and completing weekly maintenance on it, remembering all the gear that I need for it, and also with all this, remembering the amount of food that I need to eat to support all my training. Nonetheless, the journey so far has been so rewarding, and I encourage any of you to try this sport. I have truly learned what it takes to train. With that being said, in the future, I do want to document a full week of training for you guys to understand what truly goes into this, as I certainly underestimated what this sport required when I first started out. But that is what the whole point of training, recovering, and adaptation is all about. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and let me know what other videos you actually want to see. But as always, thank you for watching.